Before we start, I would like to clarify a few things that may have already popped in your head before you even clicked on this video. I am not making this video for the purpose of explaining why the older Call of Duty games were infinitely better than the garbage newer titles. Although I will make some comparisons to older titles, this is not a rant on why the recent titles have been so trash lately, as really, they are fine games on their own. This is more or less going to be a video on my issues with the current state of Call of Duty and how I think it can improve. I want to keep my solutions in line with how things currently are and not change them altogether. For example, I'm not just going to say things like get rid of Warzone or let's completely rework the current format of Call of Duty games. I feel as if that would be too much change and this video would be way longer than it already is. With that out the way, let's get into the actual video now. I've been playing Call of Duty for pretty much as long as I can remember. I believe I was only 4 years old when I started to play the games, which is around the time Call of Duty World at War came out, the 5th main installment to the series. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. It's been over a decade and this franchise has gone through some major ups and downs, and I was basically there for pretty much all of that. The current state of the franchise, I can say for certainty, is in a way better spot than it was a little over half a decade ago. However, it is also far from what it used to be, and in this video I want to shine some light on my current thoughts as to why this may be and how these issues can be fixed. I care about this franchise a lot as it's been a part of me for basically my entire life, and I want to see it do better, even if at this point that will never happen. And without further ado, this is how Call of Duty could be better. It's early 2019 and Call of Duty is not exactly in a good state at the moment. At this point, BO4 came out a few months back and everyone was just kind of done with Call of Duty at this point. And although I personally really enjoyed Black Ops 4, I even noticed they were just treading the same ground we've gone through for so many years now. Time and time again, we would be hyped up for the next game and then it ends up being not that good and not really delivering what we were expecting to be a complete package. This went on for almost half a decade at this point and we were left wondering, are we ever going to get out of this cycle we have been in for years now? Well, cut to May 29th, 2019, when we got our first teaser for the new Call of Duty game releasing later that year. And judging by what the leaks were saying now being confirmed, everyone was hyped as usual. The next day, the reveal happened, and that is when everything changed. Whoa, this game actually looks different? In a good way, I mean. The game was sporting a brand new engine and overall a brand new look, and it looked really good. Was this it? Was this finally going to be the COD game to break this endless cycle we have been in for so long? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. Throughout the months, we were given a lot of footage and information on the brand new Modern Warfare game. A lot of people were pretty mixed on the new engine and how it all looked. Me? I wanted to give it a chance. Finally, we were getting something new and fresh, and I was happy to see they were finally getting the balls to try and do something different. Then the game came out in November, and well, although it was different and unique to the series, this is where the first issues with the new approach started to form. Now, I'm not going to give my full thoughts on Modern Warfare 2019 because, well, that'll be a video for the distant future. But long story short, I did not like this game at all, to be honest. And although it was for a lot of reasons relating to the game, again, for another time, one of the issues I feel stemmed from the direction this game was trying to set for future titles. This is my first issue with the current Call of Duty, trying to cater more to realism rather than just trying to be a fun archaic shooter game. For the longest time up to this point, Call of Duty could be described as a fun, archaic first-person shooter game. But with the recent titles, it seems to have slowly drifted away from being archaic and tries to go for a more realistic approach instead. The issue with this stems through its presentation and the gameplay. These games present themselves pretty well, but now it starts to look like all the other modern shooter games that are still present today, like Battlefield, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six Siege, etc. I think what separated Call of Duty from other shooters back then was that its main focus was just trying to be a fun, competitive multiplayer game with a touch of realism, but throwing that away for a more old-fashioned type of feel, like how multiplayer games used to feel on the PS2 or Xbox. And it stuck with that way of feeling all the way up until Modern Warfare 2019. This is also where it starts to affect the gameplay. Now, Modern Warfare 2019 still feels like a competitive fun shooter game, but added all these extra elements to it to make it feel more realistic than your normal Call of Duty game. Movement in the game being affected the most. For example, running, jumping, and sliding has a lot more weight to it. throwing a grenade or lethal takes a bit longer to do, as the animation is a lot more, well, realistic compared to the past games. Even the recoil of weapons and the way they are handled has been attuned to how those weapons would handle in real life. The problem with all of these changes, though, is that it makes the gameplay feel a lot stiffer and can sometimes even be a pain to control at times. It feels like you have like a 100-ton weight on your back every time you run or even turn. Now, I just want to come out and say that I'm not undermining the amount of time and effort these devs put in to make the games feel this way. A lot of these extra animations are great and can really help make the game feel more immersive and polished. The attention to detail in this game is great stuff, especially the sound design. However, I think some of these changes do contribute to making the game feel a lot slower and less fast-paced than most of the other COD titles. So how is this in Cold War though? Well, I can say for a certainty that some of the issues I displayed are gone. I still think it could use some work though. The only big issue that is no longer a thing is that it doesn't feel like there is a 100-ton weight on your back anymore. Everything feels a lot more fast-paced and things in general feel less stiff, which is great. However, I still feel some of the animations still make everything janky in some areas. I think the best way to fix this is to give some of these animations less priority than usual, but still give them a good polish so that a lot of the actions you perform don't feel so stiff at times. Also, I really do not like how the recoil feels in these two games. I feel like every time I shoot, I can barely see my target and it can lead to a lot of unfun deaths. Maybe I'm just bad at aiming, I don't know. Now, I know all that I am saying probably seems like it doesn't make a difference, but trust me, just go and play a match of BO3 and then play a match of Modern Warfare 2019 or Cold War and then come back to me. You'll feel the major differences. I do want to make clear that there is a reason why I mentioned Modern Warfare's issue despite most of that being fixed in Cold War. I'll get to that later, but for now, I have another issue I want to talk about. If there is one good thing I can say about the new direction Call of Duty is in, is that the crappy old business practices Activision used to use is now gone. Now I'm talking about the Season Pass system, which gave us a bunch of new content every 3 to 4 months. This made you pay an extra $50 for new content, which meant that if you wanted to get the full experience for your COD game, you had to pay over $110. And if you were a returning fan, you had to do this every year. Now, starting with Modern Warfare 2019, you no longer have to. From now on, content will be 100% free. This is a very welcome change. But with this, that meant they had to format and monetize their content in a different way. And how would they do this exactly? Well, let's say that games like Fortnite, for example, heavily influenced this new format they use now. This was, of course, the Season Battle Pass format that most multiplayer games use today. Gone with the garbage loot box system. Seriously, thank God that era is over now. And then with having their cosmetics presented in a Battle Pass and item shop for people to spend using COD points. This also meant that their content format had to be changed to now giving us content with every new season. Of course, they also sprinkled content in between, so it isn't entirely dry for a while. Now, this all sounds good, correct? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that though, because although it was great to not have to spend so much for the new content, this started a pretty annoying trend that Cold War still suffers with today. Since season launches are in much shorter time frames, that means that the content is more spread out rather than dumping a whole bunch at once after months of nothing. But because of it being more spread out, that meant that developers would be given considerably less time to finish the content that needed to be finished for the next season launch. This leads to the half-baked content being put out, which I feel Cold War has a lot at the moment of writing this script. Now, I'm not saying that it is bad content or not enough content. A lot of it is fine as is, but I have noticed that the potential for this content gets wasted in some areas and sometimes a lot of areas. I think a good example of this is a new zombies mode that semi-recently came out called Outbreak. This mode is pretty much Call of Duty Zombies, but open world with all sorts of objectives to complete, and a nice progression system similar to how the traditional round-based zombies maps are. Now this sounds really fun at first, and it definitely has the potential to be a great experience, but as of now, this potential is still far from being reached, which is a shame. The mode ended up being pretty boring and bare bones for me and a lot of other people, and I suspect that the reason behind this is due to Treyarch just not having the time to fully flesh out the mode. And you can see it by just how much old assets are actually being reused here. You have the Fireteam maps being used as the map you play on, one of the boss enemies being reused from BO3, the dragons from Der Eisendrache, a BO3 map being used for one of the objectives. The whole mode just screams recycled to me, and I think this is one of the reasons why the mode just falls flat for me. This also leads me to my next point, being too much recycled content. Now this is definitely not new to Call of Duty. I mean, just look at BO4. That game was riddled with recycled content, from the maps to the weapons to even the skins that were released, just being reused from the campaigns of previous titles and such. But this does not change the fact that too much recycled content can lead to your game feeling like it's just treading the same ground over and over again. Recycled content is not bad content by any means. In some cases, it can be better than the original stuff that is put out, but that just tells me that the team is either A, too incompetent to make something decent that people may enjoy, or B, they simply just do not have the time to make original stuff, so they just grab stuff from an older title more than they're like, wow guys, look at this brand new weapon that totally hasn't showed up in the last 2 entries in the Black Ops series. Now, I know that Treyarch are in no way incompetent people. They have made good original content in the game before. Firebase Z, the latest round-based zombies map at the time of writing this, is a great map that is completely original in map designs and concepts. Well, almost, anyway. So the only reason I can think of is due to the seasonal-based format not giving the devs the time to complete the content they need. So either get one new map that ends up being pretty meh in terms of map design and gameplay, or we get a completely recycled map that makes me feel like they can't do anything original for once, or even both a lot of the time, which just contrasts the two different maps even more. You can also tell all the recycled stuff is mainly trying to be nostalgia pandering, because pretty much every recycled map we have ever gotten so far has all been from BO2, one of the most beloved games in the series, and clearly the best one, but that's an argument for another time. Examples being Hijacked and Rush being the most recent maps to come into Cold War. Look, the content that Cold War has been putting out has been fine, recycles or not. But it's becoming an issue when the recycled stuff is better than the actual original stuff, and that's just sad. And let's not forget that this problem has been made even worse with the new Reloaded updates that they release halfway through the seasons. Pretty much just smaller versions of the season update, but still pretty big in content, meaning developers probably put even more time than usual getting content ready. So how do we fix this? Well, I think we should actually look into how BO4 did the content and Battle Pass. I know I mentioned BO4, and I know it sounds stupid, but just hear me out real quick. BO4, like the previous titles, had the seasonal pass format, which gave us brand new maps every 3 to 4 months, but it also had the battle pass system with it, which they called operations. The operations were pretty much in line with when new season pass content will drop, so a new operation would usually release with season pass content, so why not take this system to the newer titles, of course still keeping it free. Now this may seem like less content will be dropped, which it technically is. However, this actually allows new content to be more complete, meaning better maps, better cosmetics and weapons, and less recycled garbage. I would rather have very good maps come out every 3 to 4 months rather than a mixed bag of content every 1 to 2 months. This also softens the workload on Treyarch a lot, which is always good. You see, this system would work easily, however, there is actually one thing that is holding back from this really working out. The last issue I want to talk about, and a lot of you might disagree, but I feel it must be said. Warzone. Call of Duty's take on the Battle Royale genre. Now don't worry, this isn't going to become a Warzone hate video because that's not going to be the point of this section. I am more or less going to be talking about how Warzone is being handled right now and how it is going to affect the rest of the series as a whole. As you may know, Warzone is completely free to play. Meaning currently, it is probably the Call of Duty game with the most traction the franchise has ever had for a very long time. Even now, there are tons of people playing it right now, and Activision is going to deposit as much cash from it as possible. I feel one of the main issues I have is how much attention that Warzone is being given to from Activision. It seems to be the top priority right now, and it really is starting to feel like the main titles are being thrown to the side. This may also be a reason why Cold War's content is just so mediocre. Warzone is such a huge priority to them to the point where most of Activision's development teams are being moved to the main Warzone team. And this completely sucks because some of Activision's other franchises that just got a resurgence like Crash and Spyro are being thrown to the side now. It's that bad. Now to be fair, some of these companies are also being added for development on the current and future COD titles, but this is a small amount compared to how much support Warzone is getting. I understand why Activision would do this because Warzone is pretty much their money-making machine, but that doesn't change the fact that normal Call of Duty titles seem to not get much attention from Activision, which isn't a good thing. And remember when I brought up all of Modern Warfare 2019's problems? Well, I did that because Warzone also carries all those issues due to it being on the same engine as Modern Warfare 2019. This, of course, makes the game feel pretty slow and paced poorly, even with 150 players. Oh, and did you also know that Warzone apparently has an overarching plot that actually connects with all the recent titles? Yep, gone are the days with COD games taking place in their own separate universes. Now every single game is connected in some way. Meaning Modern Warfare 2019, Cold War, Warzone, and whatever the next game is are all under one same storyline. This wouldn't be entirely bad if it didn't make everything super confusing and convoluted, because now you have to keep up with two separate games to understand what's going on. Like, apparently Cold War takes place in between Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, but also in the same universe as Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone. So wait, does that mean this all takes place in the Black Ops universe since BO3 and 4 also exists? But BO3 and 4 completely overwrote what actually happened in the past game, so how does that make sense? And if the new game does indeed take place during World War II, how does that era tie in into all this? You see what I'm getting at here? This just complicates things so much to the point where I'm not entirely sure what is canon or not. I think we were just better off having the Black Ops series stay in its own canon and Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone staying on its own. Too bad that seems to not be possible, especially with how Warzone shares seasonal updates with the current Call of Duty title now, so yep. I'm not saying that Call of Duty lore was that interesting or even important for that matter, but it's nice to be able to follow some sort of story for these games. It's just a nice little side thing that enhances the experience a bit. Now, of course, I do have some other issues I could talk about. Like, I could have said way more stuff about Warzone and how the recent game's art style are pretty dull, but I'm not trying to make this video any longer than I want it to be, especially for a topic as nitpicky and oversaturated as this one. Overall, I love this franchise despite all the ups and downs it has gone through. This new era of the series shows a lot of potential, and I really want to see this series offer those great experiences the older games were able to give. I know that it can get to that level of quality again, but it seems that that might not end up happening, which really sucks. Am I being too hopeful? Probably. But I'm not just gonna give up on this series because, again, it's been with me my whole life. I probably ended up sounding nitpicky in this video, but I could care less, to be honest. You probably disagree with me or thought that a lot of what I said was pretty stupid, which is perfectly fine. The point of the video was to express how frustrated I was with the current state of the series I hold dear to me. That sounds sad as hell, even in my head, but again, I could give less of a crap. Is it really that hard for him to deliver a truly great game again? Well, I guess only time will tell. Thank you guys for watching. Just a little video I wanted to get out to voice my thoughts on how I felt with this franchise. I want to take a moment to thank you guys for the overwhelming support I have received with my last two videos. It means a lot to me and it helps me continue to improve my content. I won't say this often, but if you enjoy this type of stuff, leave a like and consider subscribing. I make commentary videos like these, and I also make reviews, my last one being Subnautica, which I will link in the description. Comment below what your stance is on the Call of Duty franchise, or tell me how I can improve my videos. I'd love some feedback. Follow my Twitter as well. I say a lot of dumb stuff on there, but I also post some updates, so feel free. Well, anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Have a great night, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.